What's a sign someone definitely wasn't raised right? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Surinakanam, Surikshiradaborn. Zero civic-mindedness. It costs $0 to throw your litter in the bin, refrain from parking in disabled bays, return your card after use, stand and wait in line, and the list goes on. If you can't even teach your kid which side of an escalator to stand on, you probably didn't teach your kid much else. Story 2. Honestly, it's the lack of basic respect that gets me. Like people who don't say please or thank you, or who interrupt constantly, or those who think it's okay to leave a mess for someone else to clean up. And the entitlement thing, like they think the world owes them something, that's a dead giveaway. Basic manners ain't hard, and if they're missing, something went wrong somewhere. And when they just don't seem to have any empathy, like they don't care if they hurt your feelings or if they are just being mean, that's a big no. Story 3. Someone who won't even listen to someone who has a different opinion, just immediately yells and says they're wrong, and not even try to see it from a different perspective. Usually someone who lacks empathy as well. Story 4. Stealing. I was friend with a girl at 1920. She was an only child. Her parents had both good wages and provided all she needed. She would steal just because she had the opportunity to do so. A bike left with its keys on it when we left a party, or an iPhone that a drunk person lost. I was so mad at her. Why do you need to steal that instead of just be good to these strangers? Story 5. I feel like it's somewhat an unpopular opinion, but if people aren't able to emotionally disconnect from their parents, you're home to a degree where they get severely hindered in fully living their own life. For example, some distance to get a suitable job, etc. In the end, it's the job of parents to enable the children to become functioning adults. But if they constantly depend on the parents, they never become independent. Story 6. They believe women are less than men in every way and treat women as such, toys only, or someone to exploit for money. They believe women are all stupid, talentless, and are just jealous of men's success. They believe women shouldn't have rights or be able to talk unless spoken to. They believe women shouldn't work or do anything without a man's permission. They believe women should receive consequences for disobedience, and that a woman has no right to discuss her problems with them, or else it's just the woman trying to start. They believe women's opinions are fake and rooted in false ideas, while men's opinions are facts. They believe women should do as they are told without question. They believe women shouldn't have money. They believe women can never be leaders or be allowed to make decisions of any kind. They believe women are born evil, and men have to put them in their place. Honawu. Congratulations if you made it this far. Welcome to my 29-year-old serial cheating ex who joined an incel cult the last 1 year of our 5-year relationship when he started hitting me and telling me my place as a woman, all with the backing of his mommy and daddy. He was in fact raised to be a racist, sexist, and abusive asshole. Story 7. Lack of respect for others. Rude, dismissive toward people, especially those in service roles or with differing opinions. No sense of accountability. They avoid taking responsibility for their actions, blame others, rarely admit when they're wrong. Lack of empathy and compassion. They struggle to understand or care about other people's feelings. Enjoy seeing other people in pain. Entitlement and selfishness. They expect things to be handed to them without effort. Prioritize their own wants over the needs of others. Doesn't respect boundaries. They disregard personal space, privacy, and consent, assuming they have a right to whatever they want. Manipulative behavior. They use guilt, gaslighting, or deceit to get their way rather than being honest. Inability to handle criticism. They take constructive feedback as a personal attack rather than an opportunity to improve. Story 8. Compulsive lying as a defense mechanism to avoiding punishment for telling the truth. Saying sorry all the time when there's no reason to say so. Emotional immaturity can be a result of having poor models and dynamics in the family. Hard-hearted or being too stoic and independent, often a result of having little to no support or safe space to vent and express oneself. Low self-esteem. Poor people skills, self-centered, raised being told yes all the time, and finds it hard when they get a no for once. Story 9. Abuses, neglects, mistreats, or disrespects animals. This is a huge red flag because it's not about whether or not humans are superior than other animals. It's about treating another living creature as less than a living creature solely because it's not a human. Oh, and also serial killers and domestic abusers hurt animals all the time. It's literally a forensics checkup to see if the guy beats the family dog when trying to find his missing wife. So yeah, beware the man who kicks a cat down the street for simply being in his way. Story 10. When they believe being an asshole just a bully is something to be admired or aspired to. They've either had their mean behavior enabled, never checked, or it was encouraged, normalized by those who should have been teaching them better. Story 11. Everything anybody does is open for question, comment, criticism, or ridicule. Where have you been? Where are you going? Why are you doing that? Why aren't you doing this or that or doing it this way? That's dumb. What a waste of time. Story 12. Telling someone they have money on a debit card, letting them walk a FCK half mile to the store, fill up a bag full of groceries, and the card is declined at checkout. Then someone has to walk another half mile back empty-handed after the shame of the card being denied at checkout. Sign they weren't raised right. They think that's funny. Not apologetic at all. Story 13. Being on the phone while someone is directly talking, responding to you. It's incredibly rude. At least acknowledge that you need to put the conversation on hold to look at something unrelated on your phone. Story 14. I have a long list. Laughing at disabilities. Like how people would laugh at autistic kids in my school and call them sped. Something's not right with you. Bullying people. Like how someone could come to school with unique clothing and people would snicker and whisper, "What does she have on? Ho, is you coo?" Violent individuals. Like, why do you believe that it's justified to harm someone because they do not share the same beliefs as you? Like how a girl attacked me because I said, no thanks. I don't really believe in that. I have my own set of beliefs. Find a therapist. Adults who feel the need to pick on children, you're 32, grow up. How is my art teacher going to get mad at me for briefly falling asleep after the school counselor? And my mother told her that I have severe insomnia. And the thing is, she's my first hour. Men with toxic masculinity, self-explanatory. People who think it's all right to criticize people's bodies. Focus on yourself. People who pick out insecurities. If someone just said, "I feel like this outfit looks weird," and you proceed to say, "Yeah, I don't think you should wear crop tops. You need to lose some weight first." Story 15. Not being raised right by your parents isn't that bad. Your parents may not be perfect in every way and have their own shortcomings too. It's on you to recognize that through self-awareness and raise yourself right from there on out. You are responsible for your actions, words, and behavior. You're making a choice of the kind of person you're being in every moment, whether consciously or unconsciously. So choose well. Be the best version of you. Be someone that people can depend on and feel safe with. Always learn and grow as a person, and never stop trying to be the very best you that could ever exist. Story 16. Rudeness, unwillingness to help others, littering or abusing our streets or countryside, swearing too much, bullying, driving aggressively, disrespectful to others, disrespectful to vulnerable people, mocking others who are going through difficult times, stealing, anything exploitative. Story 17. Lacking basic life skills. It's not always because they were spoiled, though. Some parents just don't teach their kids how to take care of themselves. I didn't learn how to take care of my hygiene appropriately until I left my mother's house at 16. I still struggle with cleaning my teeth properly at 23 years old because I was never taught how to do it correctly, and it was never a priority for my parents. My younger siblings also struggle with this, as well as cleaning up after themselves, because we were never taught how to. Story 18. Not keeping your word. Never apologizing without being confronted first. Getting physically or verbally aggressive and or abusive when people simply say words to you. When people say, "I'm getting pissed off, you're pissing me off," as if they are issuing a warning, rather than be responsible for their own actions. Talking about people behind their backs but being nice as pie to their face. Sharing things told in confidence. Sharing personal relationship details through dirty laundry on social media. Selfishness in general. Story 19. If they treat animals like pets or wild animals, doesn't matter. Don't be mean to them for no reason. I grew up with a kid in my high school, friend of a friend. He quickly ended up on my list for throwing rocks and sticks at a possum we came across on a walk. It's dirty and probably has rabies. It's just an animal doing its own thing and was actively walking away from us. Poor thing was hit at least once before he finally stopped throwing at it. Story 20. They can't bring themselves to ask for help. It means that when they needed their parents most during the early years in life, their parents were incapable of handling those negative emotions. They were often dismissive and downplayed when their children were sad, angry, or scared. Their parents' parents did the same thing, and so on and so forth. It is a sad cycle. Story 21. When they touch a 6-year-old girl. No joke, there's a kid who is 14 and somehow lives on my street still who touched a 6-year-old child. The parents pressed heavy charges, and the kid only went off for about a month or two. I've also heard from friends that they've been told to stay away from him, and most of my friends live on the other side of town by about 20 miles. His parents also can't control him, and I've seen him be kicked out of the house for the day. Funny enough, the last people who lived in that exact home had a schizophrenic kid and had the SWAT team bust down their front door and take him away for stalking and other bad. Story 22, how they react to minor mistakes or inconveniences. If they are filled with rage or get physically violent with someone or snap and intentionally damage an object around them, that's concerning. Before I continue, I want to preface this by saying that I don't insult anyone's parental raisers, but not being raised right isn't always the person growing up to be an asshole. Some people were raised in an aggressive household where inflicting a minor mistake or an inconvenience is enough to send the person spiraling or flinching or shrinking down to de-escalate as an immediate instinctive response because they had to walk on eggshells around their parental figures or other family members. Knowing anything out of line would set them off, feeling the instinct to lie or cover up what they did. That's not being raised right if they're terrified to openly admit doing something wrong. And sometimes it's a different response, frozen between fight or flight, unsure of what to do next because they feel like doing anything else will set off the other person more, but freezing just makes them angry anyway. And to add that apologizing for something isn't always from an inconsiderate standpoint, some people are scared to apologize right away because history for them says that apologizing in a timely manner doesn't do anything because the person will just yell at them again for it or angry with them. So they might wait a handful of days to actually apologize. Story 23, personal. But growing up around my family, we were all very defensive and trying to be perfect and made very hurtful jokes at each other all the time. I thought it was normal. So I did that growing up, and now at 18, I'm realizing just how much of an asshole I was growing up due to my family environment that I thought was normal. Now trying to pretty much learn how to not be an asshole. Story 24, I awake. If it's a cultural thing in my country or international, but when I was still getting to know my uni friend group, this girl suddenly decided that everyone's going to go to my house and we're going to cook together. All of us thought she was joking, but she literally wasn't. Mind you, I live with my parents, and obviously you can't just decide to go to someone's house without asking them first, especially if this person lives with their family. Story 25. Not understanding no is a full sentence. Always wanting their way, thinking they deserve more than the people around them. If you can't understand why you can't have everything, or why someone else may be more deserving, or that someone isn't obliged to do as you wish, 100,000% not raised right. Percent. Story 26. I have an old friend who is lovely and caring in general, but else lives in a total bubble where she sometimes does not consider her words or actions first. Like a friend said they picked a selfie out of 50 or so for her ID, meaning she didn't think any of the others looked good enough. And this friend looked at the chosen one and immediately said, "Doesn't look anything like you." She would be devastated to know she hurt friends' feelings. She had zero clue. She just essentially said the shot friend liked best of herself didn't look like her, but the orange she found ugly did. She's also like this physically. No sense of self-awareness and will often knock things over because she'll just swing her bag over her shoulder without considering what is behind her. But then she's mortified if she breaks something. It's a strange dissonance there. One time last year, I spent time with her mother, and I could see why she's like that. Her mother told me she was taking the afternoon off to finally reply to some emails confirming certain orders she was making online, like FB Marketplace, Gumtree, etc. I mentioned how you don't want to leave those too long or the stuff will be sold, and she was like, "Well, I said I would buy it so they won't sell it to another person. I just have to reply today because most of them were sent in 2022. She was replying 2 years later and had no concept that she had put someone out by offering and then ghosting them. I was stunned. Story 27, taking the last piece of cake, cookie, whatever, piling up huge plates at a work potluck to take home before other people have had a chance to get a plate. I was raised right, but I still fail at times because I'm human. I don't take the last piece of anything unless I'm at home, and it's mine to begin with. I always return my cart. I say all the polite words and try to appreciate all the service workers with whom I interact. Please, thank you. You're welcome. I help people in stores that seem to be struggling, finding things when I'm familiar with the layout. I'm generally very good at all those things. That doesn't mean that I'm not a crap person sometimes, though. Being raised right, those polite things are rote and require very little thinking on my part. The struggle is being a good human to those you are closest when you feel terrible, have the worst day ever. Story 28. Anyone who turns their nose up rudely at food offered to them as a guest. This is a sacred ancient custom. When someone offers you food, they are offering you life, and the offering is made at the expense of their own family. So show some respect. There was nothing that would get my kids into more with me than being impolite guests, especially when it came to a meal. Story 29, having a meltdown of any degree when being told no or any variation of no. No patience for anyone else. Not thinking of other people at all. Like only child syndrome, but on steroids. Rude to hospitality and retail staff. Can't handle any sort of conflict without blowing up on someone. Can't take any responsibility for their own words or actions. No awareness of how they come across to other people. Very judgy and never think about how rude or dismissive they can come across, even if they don't intend to come across that way. ETA, boomer-level cruelty towards others. I know someone who genuinely said they had a baby and they're still struggling 2 years later. So what? They chose to do that. No one forced them. I don't know why they're getting any sympathy or help with low-cost childcare either. They don't do anything when their child is at daycare either. That's their fault. Then they went on a rant about how daycare shouldn't be legal as it's so dangerous. And their boomer parent agreed and said, I never wanted to put you in childcare, and I didn't get any free handouts or help, but my parents babysat you when your dad and I went to work. They got free childcare. The next one this person and their boomer mom went on was about people faking depression. And then right after that, they spoke about how bad depression is, and they know so many people with depression. Story 30, nothing. This is one of the stupidest things people discuss. Humans are complex. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. You can be the perfect parent and your child can turn out to be a prick. Parenting matters, especially when it comes to morality from the ages of 2 to 7. So yeah, you can be perfect. Your child can have the worst mental health issues on the planet. Story 31, most things my former friend was like, entitled, has no sense of the value of money, always got super angry at the smallest things, never valued others' time. If you didn't involve him in a conversation or explain a joke to him, he would start screaming at you. If you said anything slightly different from how real physics and science works, or even dare mention sexual stuff, he will get angry enough to start hitting and then collapse to the floor. Naughty exaggeration. One single person in the room said the moon doesn't have gravity, instead of it has low gravity. After an argument, he started laughing, punched the wall, and then spent the next 10 minutes on the floor. And for an example of getting angry, over-emotional at small things, our teacher once said we wouldn't go to the park. For context, I used to be in a special class, not as in special ed. It was mainly meant for people with anxiety disorders and who struggled to be in regular school. And we used to visit the park during our lunch period. This was in middle school, so a while ago. So I may be misremembering exactly what happened. And he started crying like a damn 2-year-old. He also once screamed at a teacher for saying, I may be getting cold because it was winter and I didn't have gloves. There are a lot of examples of him just getting unnecessarily pissed at. He was also oddly illiterate for a damn teenager. Like I either still have or at least used to have a reading, writing, learning disability, and even somehow I read and write like Hassan X better than him, and he wasn't even diagnosed with anything. To be fair, he did have ADHD and anxiety disorders. Like me, not the ADHD, I'm just riddled with anxiety. So that could be a reason he did these things, and I could just be an asshole not looking deeper here. Story 32. There's one too many scars on their person that don't have cool stories to back them. Someone who's clearly in the position to be the door holder for whomever and wherever, who also is 100% aware there's incoming traffic, yet doesn't hold it. People that punch down. They put the TP roll going counterclock, forcing you to tug downwards on the roll like some animal. Story 33. They still live at their parents' home at 50, are constantly bailed out of situations caused by bad decisions, and resent their parents because they think they are being treated badly when their parents finally say no to something. Story 34. Spitting in the street, especially when the perpetrator snorts back snot and boggies, then spits them out in public. The only thing worse is when someone puts a finger on one nostril and snots out the other nostril to clear their nose. Not seen either in ages, thankfully. Makes me want to vomit. Story 35. Lack of common courtesy and respect, like not holding an entrance door open for anyone, not showing respect to all until they show they don't deserve it, trying to find fault in others instead of looking in the mirror where faults lie in all of us, including me if we just look hard enough. Can you? Story 36, not cleaning the toilet if they leave some lines down there. It takes you maximum 1 minute to clean it, and it's repulsive just thinking about it. Oh, and when people go to the bathroom and doesn't wash their hands. I might be a bit germaphobe, but these two signs should be pretty common. I'd also like to throw in not changing towels often. These things are bacteria-rich after enough days, and same with bed sheets. All of those dead skin cells, hair, sweat, drool, and other bodily fluids for the unfortunate or romantic types. Clean it. Story 37, speeding through a school zone when the lights are flashing, when kids are actively arriving, should getting out of school. If you want to see me go from 0 to 60 on the psychotic bitch scale, then speeding through a school zone is a phenomenal way to accomplish that. Bonus points if it's in my kid's school zone, then you'll get full-on homicidal mom. Story 38, the way they treat their siblings. Banter and fighting is normal, but being a straight-up asshole to them is a red flag. May not be how they're raised, but it sure is not good. Probably more on topic is if they act like a baby over losing on a game, or if it's too hot out, or something stupid. My ex used to do this, and his dad also did the same. It just carried over. Story 39. Once in middle school, a friend of mine dumped her lunch on the floor, and she justified it by saying that it's someone else's job to pick it up. Same girl was devastated when she found out I wasn't a Christian. And she also used me and another friend of ours as cover so her boyfriend could finger her without her mom knowing. We had no idea we were just hanging out in the living room. Another time she told us her dad handcuffed her to his bed and told her to try to escape, and that her mom told her he tried to kill her in the womb with his dick. Her parents let or made her be a model, and she strutted her stuff at school. Now that I'm older, I worry she was abused. She was way ahead of the other two of us in the friend group in terms of sexuality. This was all in middle school. Story 40, bad manners. There is no excuse for bad manners, period. The only exception being if someone is rude to you first. Other than that, how you treat others, and especially those you have any sort of power over, even if only temporarily or situationally, i.e. server or cashier, etc., says more about you than it does them. And even more so if they have made a mistake of some sort. Nothing irritates me more than rude people. Story 41. Not reading a legally binding form, filling it in incorrectly, then abusing heck out of the person trying to help you complete it properly. Bonus points if you use phrases like, your form is stupid, and you should just do it anyway, because I'm more important than you. Story 42. Avoiding people as much as possible. Sometimes this occurs because they had fear of others literally beaten into them, or they were abused in other ways that are seen in people around them, whether they are strangers, co-workers, or neighbors. Story 43. Watch how they treat minimum wage workers, our staff anywhere in public. Greatly shows their quality of how they treat those deemed lesser or not as important as them. As someone who's worked retail for over 5 years, it's a big tell if they're a genuinely nice person or not. Story 44. Instead of communicating directly, they choose to drop hints, give cold shoulders, do small petty crap towards you, and allow the resentment to build up until they explode and bring up stuff they pretended didn't matter that's now months or weeks old. Story 45, being an adult and throwing tantrums, screaming, insulting, and in general losing their cool at workers or other people in public. IDK, how they think being a massive asshole baby is going to help, and as well how they aren't embarrassed. But you know, baby want thing. Story 46, everyone here is saying very negative characteristics. In the flip side, not having an opinion because no one ever listened to them. Not knowing how to deal with conflict because to them, conflict always ended in violence or abuse, so they usually freeze in real-life not-so-bad situations. Being really quiet, again in survival mode. Once they do find a friend, being overly grateful to someone or positive actions towards them. Story 47. I have no idea how I constantly ended up in bad situations. Life always hands me a bad card. Brags about reckless spending and impulsive lifestyle online, and constantly gets bailed out by other people. They were a daddy's girl who could do no wrong. I grew up with this person and watched them develop into adulthood, so it was really surprising that they were educationally gifted, but exceptionally lacking in regards to handling difficult life situations by themselves. And when someone would help them, they would always say things like, it was only by a miracle in spirituality that my life turned itself around. I would like to think that upbringing was 100% part of that mindset. Story 48. Treating middle-low-class workers like are violent and abusive. But one thing that stands out to me in particular is not knowing basic things like general geography or things about other cultures or different backgrounds. Someone could easily say this is an education thing, but I think it's also a reflection of how much their parents cared to engage with them during their formative years. Something as simple as reading to your child every night has a massive impact on their overall sense of curiosity and will to learn new things. Story 49. In middle school, my gym class was doing the morning warm-up stuff. We went to do the push-ups, and when this one kid turned over, he started humping the ground, like he was seriously putting his back into it. I must have been 13, 14, but it must have been the first time in my life I ever said genuinely, "Hoff shut, that person's insane." Story 50, when they take selfies holding, insert poor children from another country. You're on vacation, those aren't your kids, and they won't remember you. You think poverty is some tourist attraction when it's another country, but wouldn't dare be within 100 miles of your own slums because blah blah, crime blah blah, John 3:16. And they never do the same for poor people of their own skin color. Story 51. They leave the seat up in the bathroom, they wipe their hands on the bath towels instead of the hand towels. They don't offer to help clean up after a meal in your home. They don't bother to put their dirty plates or cup in the sink. They begin eating before everyone has sat at the table. Don't close their mouth when they chew. Fart openly. Story 52. Thinking hitting children is a good form of punishment. There's been people I've dated that were hit as a child, and when talking about children, they'll mention a good slap on the butt always worked for them. It's so sad hearing it, but that's not the generational trauma I want to pass down. I hope they've healed. Story 53. Hyper-awareness of space. Quiet enough to accidentally jump scare people often. Very independent at young age. Guarded behavior. Source: me, who constantly walked on eggshells around people, including parents who barely helped me or actively made things worse. Most stuff I learned, I had to figure out myself. Story 54. If they make fun of you for every small thing you do. Example: they make fun of the way you walk, talk, look, and breath. They look for tiny habits you have to make fun of when everyone has a different way of doing things. I had a coworker who was like this, and he would pick on the most mundane things I did, like cutting up cucumber and knife safety. It shows instead of positive interactions, they only know how to negatively interact with people. Worst part is, they expect you to think of them as a friend. Story 55. I teach second grade, 7-8 Wayos. And when some of them do something wrong and I speak to them about it, they just have this stupid smile on their face like they're going to do it again anyways, and they always do. Talking to their parents is useless because they claim their child will never. One of my male students in particular acts quite inappropriately, like pretending a milk bag is his genitals, or putting a pencil down another boy's pants. And no matter who talks to him, he does not improve. It's so sad to see. Story 56. I read a quote recently, and it really connected with me, because I'm having a hard time thinking my sibling is human. The quote said, after a certain point in life, it isn't about how you were raised or the environment you grew up in. After a certain point, it's just you and your choices that either make you a good person or a bad person. Story 57. Not naturally saying please or thank you. Being stubborn with opinions. I think it's good if kids are raised to be open-minded and not be afraid to be wrong and learn from things instead of battling against it, become ignorant and combative. Racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic behavior and such. We all know at this point that hate is a learned behavior. We are all truly smart enough as adults to know better than to let kids think poorly of others that differ from them. Makes me sad for the future. Story 58. There was this girl in high school that always tried to say that her mom was horrible, mind you. This girl had never been abused in any way. Neglected. Nothing. Her mother is an absolute sweetheart and always talks highly about her daughter. One day the girl came into school and said that her mom slapped her. I asked why, and she said, I called her a cunt. Her mom worked at the high school and they suspended her mom for a month. It makes sense why nobody liked this girl. Story 59. They are not aware of their own feelings, reactions, and thoughts. The majority of their behavior is regulated subconsciously. They lack the appropriate vocabulary to articulate a thought and then get annoyed that they are misunderstood when they paraphrase it wrongly, i.e., with words that do not carry the whole meaning they want to convey. Story 60. Gaslighting, lying, frequently blaming others, but never themselves. Lack of accountability, demanding personal thank yous for things they haven't done, taking credit for other people's work. Funny, most of these signs were taken from observations of the current administration. Story 61. A sign that someone wasn't raised right can often be seen in their lack of empathy or respect for others. This might manifest in behaviors like being inconsiderate, dismissive, or rude, especially in situations where kindness or understanding is called for. They might struggle with basic social norms, like saying please or thank you, or they might disregard other people's feelings, needs, or boundaries. Additionally, a lack of accountability for their actions, blaming others for their mistakes, or an inability to show remorse can also point to a lack of proper upbringing. In essence, it often comes down to how they treat others and how they navigate social interactions. Story 62. Leaving the shopping cart in the parking lot or leaving their trash on tables at restaurants. I thought it was normal to organize dishes on the restaurant table and throw out napkins, garbage for easy cleanup. Story 63, speaking upon distasteful topics such as what other people's earnings are, questioning other people's jobs and life choices, speaking upon low IQ topics such as imperialism, pride in one's own personal beliefs, speaking in a way which divides people rather than speaking in a way that can unite people, essentially people who don't bring kindness, good vibes, and fun. Story 64, he starts crying when he thinks he may be mad and begs me not to leave him. Before I get thousands of downvotes, I've done anything to make him be like this. I treat this boy the best I can. That's my entire intention to him, to treat him properly and make him feel loved. I hate it so much. He's NVR, been treated right. Let that be from family, friends, or partners. He apologizes for every tiny thing. I love him so gently, and I love loving him so much. Story 65. A lot of these replies are just mental health, emotional attachment problems that often stem from adverse experiences of caretakers early in life, but can be from any early traumatic experiences with anyone. So I have to disagree about these clearly pointing to bad parenting. I thought the question pertained more to like bad manners. Maybe it does, so I'll add, chewing with your mouth open. Story 66. It's really telling that all the answers here are about people being aggressive, cruel, mean, etc. Plenty of people who weren't raised right end up timid, scared, are constantly convinced they're stupid or wrong or whatever. Story 67, really filthy and repulsive language. Some people seem to find the most unpleasant and unpalatable ways to say things. They'll reduce relationships to and talk about the acts in detail. They'll use the most repugnant slang, like calling a Kleenex a snot rag or referring to the bathroom as the shitter. Story 68. So this in particular I have a hard time with. I've worked on it for many years. It's uncomfortable and makes me anxious, especially when men stare deep into your soul through them. LOL, also PPL, who are autistic, have a hard time making eye contact. I understand what you're saying, and a lot of PPL find it rude. I work in a clinic and have contact with a lot of PPL, so I practice as much as I can until I end up with anxiety, LOL. But it's crippling, or a gene deflect. Next theme, what is ruining your mental health? Story 1, trying to understand why my household income was cut lower than it was 10 years ago, while entering the most expensive time of our lives as a household. All we did, she and I both, is go to work every day, on time, and do as they asked. We played the game, so to speak, and we got sacrificed anyway. Story 2, envying others, or even just dwelling on what others think of you. The happiest person I know is my aunt, who is rather loud and outspoken, but doesn't give a flying what anyone thinks of her. Her sister, another aunt, is the most miserable person I know, and it's not even close. The woman is obsessed with what people think about her, and often stays up for hours, going over the minutia of every call, every text, every single social interaction, trying to figure out what people really meant and what they really think of her. If nothing else, she's taught me the importance of letting go, that and getting enough sleep. Story 3, my bank account, debt, anxiety over everything Trump administration, fear of pandemic, trepidation of climate change, my age, 72, my children and grandchildren's future. Feeling helpless. Questions like, what's the point of it all? All my mistakes of commission and omission, lack of faith at all. Story 4, stress, 5 years without a break of stress. 2020, COVID, family deaths, child born, redundancy. 2021, wife was sick and unable to drive for a year, so I had to do all the driving for our kids in a high-stress new job. 2022, doctors were useless, so wife was still unable to drive. 2023, my mom nearly died. 2024, contract was renewed 6 times, adding to my stress as I thought I might lose my job. Digestive issues, wife had 2 seizures, so can't drive again, diagnosed with high cholesterol. 2025, January redundancy process began, caught the flu, stress at home, caught a cold, digestive problems, roids, blah. So yeah, 5 years with endless stress, which keeps building, and I have no outlet. I've done the gym, meditation, yoga, nothing works, because ultimately what I really need is a break from my kids, my job, my life as a whole. A solid 2 weeks away with the wife in a warm country. I need that. Story 5, the rage bait on all the meta platforms. It's been wild. It's a dumpster fire I can't look away from. The lack of jobs and the jobs that are around are booty pay Whether it's a serving job or a real job with a degree, you make more working a low-end serving job than you would starting out in your studied field. The divide between everyone. Red versus blue, working class versus billionaires, anti-vaxxers versus vaxxers, formula moms versus BF moms, on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Story 6. I have a pretty good personal life, but the world we all live in is pretty KN depressing emo. Like literal world ending, depressing from where I'm standing. WW3 short term, possible. Climate change midterm, 2040-50, evident. Overall extinction of life long term, 2080. If we keep it up, I believe I saw something like 70% of all wildlife gone poof in 80 years. And overall biomass 30%. They're talking about a 6th extinction event. My life, pretty good right now, but short term will be pretty bad. Midterm, very bad. And when I'm old, extremely bad. I don't want kids. I don't plan anything long term. And I don't give up about most things because I believe it's downhill from where I'm at now, whether I want it or not. Pros, I have a pretty good life that I intend to enjoy now. Because if it's not now, it will be never. Story 7. After grinding at my job for several years, I finally landed a position where I was really happy and was a few weeks away from a life-changing salary increase. I was just about to be debt-free and reach a huge milestone with my side business. Growing up in poverty to making multi-six figures between my career and passion projects. From being suicidal to finally being free and making real progress with my mental health. I was looking forward to not having to be so focused on my stress and depression and just living in the moment, enjoying my friends, family, and my dog while I have them. But then my employer fired me, wrongfully, but I'm not confident I'll see justice. My GF of 8 years kicked me out. I lost everything. I've been unemployed for almost a year. My car's engine blew, and I have to move cross-country to stay with my family so I can find a way to make money. I have to leave my best friend, my dog, who is the only child I'll ever have, who is in his senior years until I can save money to pay off court fines, reinstate my license, fly back, and drive him with me in a rental. I had a winning lottery ticket and it was stolen from me. If there is a hell, I know I'm living in it. Story 8 in Tusum, Circanerawan. Currently, what's messing with my head is the state of the world, family health issues, and my normal mental health struggles like flashbacks. I'm currently trying to make myself healthier physically, and seeing all these weight loss commercials and all these shots promoting weight loss makes my brain go wild. Story 9. My PhD was for the last 3 years, but I finally quit, and it has been a grueling 2 weeks coming to terms with it and thinking of just all the things associated with it. But for some reason, I feel a bit excited for my future now. Story 10. I took on my 15-year-old sister, who now lives with me, my husband, and our 3 children. She had debilitating depression and anxiety as a result of childhood SA. Our mom isn't very stable and can be incredibly toxic. My sister begged to live with me just over a year ago, and I let her. A year later, and I find myself constantly worn out and overstimulated now, parenting 4 children, one of which is a hormonal, lazy teenager. I miss just having my own little family home and doing things together. I never disclosed this to my sister, but it is ruining my mental health. I am exhausted. Story 11, lack of work at the moment, still working, and things are looking to pick up now the winter's over and spring is here. All last winter, I just felt crap. No money, no sun, nothing else to do but stay inside. Now the sun is out and all this is changing. I'm much happier. I'll just save better for the following winter. Edit, also social media, whether it's Reddit, Telegram, or whatever, save Discord maybe gets me down. I've realized how unhealthy it is to be constantly connected to this hive mind. It's better to just go outside and experience the sun, eating well, and living a fully lived life. Dates, holidays, etc. All the enjoyable aspects of being a young man. Story 12. Horrific abuse from when I was in nappies that I still carry physical and mental scars from. 2 long-term abusive relationships that my childhood conditioned me for, including repeated SA, assault and literal torture when I tried to leave one, bipolar, CPTSD, dissociative disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, painful and debilitating conditions that flare, Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and frozen abdomen, and a body so wrecked from it all that I have constant ongoing idiopathic medical conditions. 2 years ago, I had to have my stomach, diaphragm, and esophagus reconstructed. 3 weeks ago, I had a mild heart attack and partial lung collapse, but not from any heart or lung condition. So yeah, this is why I take meds and see a psychologist at least once a month. Story 13, fossil fuel culture. pollution, toxins, greed, love of money over people, insane politics and scary weapons, loneliness, lack of creative stimulation, no partner here with me, people's terrible tastes, churches who ostracize gays. I could go on all day. Story 14. In the same month that my wife and I had our second child, our car was repossessed and we were sued twice for unpaid debts. Add to that a toddler who never listens to a word I say, a wife who acts like I'm insane for getting frustrated with anything, and you've got a great recipe for depression. Story 15. I'm late 30s. About 20 years ago, Mom broke her back. Dad also has health issues, still at home despite having a good career and good enough social life. The problem, Mom is deeply narcissistic. No interest in my life, no sense of appreciation when I do anything. I make dinner for both of them every night, and last year, they didn't even remember my birthday. Mom then blamed me for not reminding her. It sucks helping them out, but the narcissism is the bit that really gets to me. Plus, there's the guilt of you leave that you're not helping them out when they need it. Also work in general. So yay, depression. Story 16. My ancestors seemingly decided to procreate amongst themselves instead of making the effort to walk across the river and procreate with the village next door. So none of these recessive genes got washed out, and now I have a bunch of inherited mental health issues. My ancestors also had the job of being the nighttime watchmen in their village, so we're all also major night owls. They saved the townspeople from lions and other enemies, and messed up so many future generations in the process. It's 7 a.m., I haven't slept yet, and I am nowhere near tired enough to fall asleep, so that. Story 17, my divorce. I absolutely fucked my marriage up. Now I have a co-parenting situation, and she can't stomach the thought of being with me. When we're together, we laugh and have the best times, but it's not the same knowing I'm not with their mom. My kids are 5 and 3 and are so tough. I'm so proud of them, and I'm so grateful I've become a good father. But it is so incredibly painful for me knowing I'm the reason that everything is different. Story 18. My job, teacher assistant, my mental health took a nosedive during COVID. During COVID, I had to work in person with students. Teachers were able to work from home. During this time, I had up to 15 kids in my classroom. We still had to document hours, even though we were in person, teachers did not. We even had to join their virtual learning sessions. Most of the time, teachers had an issue ABD couldn't join, so I had to take over their class. No one gave us assistants kudos for what we did, even though it was us who worked directly with students while teachers half-assed did. Zero support from admin. It's always educators' fault. Assistants are especially at risk. They always side with teachers and/or parents. There are so many stories I could share, but too long. Just imagine never having support at any level. Suddenly losing our summer pay, stretched out option. Only hourly employees. Teachers still get theirs. Poverty pay like legit no one could live off of what I do. Now I love my job. I always get most spirited staff, one employee of the year, am considered my high school students' safe adult. But damn, between lack of support, being treated like second class, getting beat up, blamed by politicians and society for all the problems in the world, my anxiety is bad, my hair is falling out, I have hives, palpitations, numbness in hands, panic attacks, had all tests imagined done, and it all comes out the same. My mental health is fact BC of my job and how I am treated.